Hello guys. Welcome back to my channel. I stole your card and there's no money on it. You fool. You made a complete spectacle of me in front of the whole store. My mother-in-law shrieked into the phone. She immediately rushed back to the condo, practically kicking the door down as she burst into the apartment screaming, "I'm going to break your legs right now." She froze, horrified by what she saw. Nia Sterling, an African-Amean woman, woke up to the sound of someone cautiously opening drawers in the next room. The noise was quiet, almost indistinct, but she heard it anyway. She lay still, listening to every rustle. Her husband, Miles Hawthorne, had already left for work. He always headed out by 7 o'clock in the morning. No later. That meant the only people in the condo were her and her mother-in-law, Tamara Hawthorne. Nia got up, threw on her robe, and stepped into the hall. The door to her home office was slightly ajar. She peered inside and froze. Her mother-in-law was standing by the desk, holding a folder, flipping through papers as she leaned over the desktop. "Good morning," Nia said. Tamara flinched, spinning around suddenly. Panic flashed across her face, but she quickly composed herself and smiled. "Oh, Nia, you startled me." Her mother-in-law pressed a hand to her chest. "I was just looking for a pen. I thought you might have one in your desk." Nia silently walked over to the desk and took the folder from Tamara's hands. It was the folder containing all her important documents, the condo agreement, insurance papers, and bank statements. It was the very folder that always lay in the bottom drawer, which was kept locked. "The pens are over there on the shelf." Nia indicated the built-in shelving unit. "Ah, thanks." Tamara quickly exited the office. Nia put the folder back into the drawer and locked it with the key. She hid the key in the pocket of her robe. She stood for a moment staring at the closed drawer, then left the office. In the kitchen, her mother-in-law was already busy at the stove, stirring something in a pot. Seeing Nia, she smiled wide. "Nia, sit down. I made oatmeal. It's very healthy in the morning." "No, thank you." Nia poured herself a glass of filtered water and drank it. "I have to leave for work soon." "How can you leave without breakfast?" Tamara shook her head. "You're getting too thin. Skin and bones." Nia didn't reply. She returned to the bedroom and dressed quickly in dark denim jeans, a crisp white button-down, and a gray cardigan. She pulled her hair back into a neat bun, applied mascara and lip gloss, and looked at herself in the mirror. Just the regular face of a woman in her early 30s with expressive green eyes and warm dark brown skin. Nothing extraordinary. Tamara Hawthorne had arrived 8 days ago, claiming she needed to file some paperwork in Chicago because she was having problems getting it done back in Gary, Indiana. Miles was overjoyed, hugged and kissed his mother, and immediately set up the guest room for her. Nia silently laid out the linens and cooked dinner for 3. For the first few days, her mother-in-law was quiet. She went out, supposedly running errands and exploring the city, and returned in the evening. But then the questions started: where Nia worked, how much she earned, what she spent her money on. Nia answered sparsely and vaguely. 2 days ago, Tamara had asked how much their condo was worth. "I don't know exactly," Nia replied. "The market changes." Her mother-in-law pressed her for an estimate. "Maybe around 500,000 to 600,000. I guess Nia shrugged. Tamara whistled. "Well, I'll be. Do you have a mortgage?" "No," Nia said, washing the dishes without turning around. "I bought the condo before we got married. With my own money." "Your own money?" Tamara raised an eyebrow. "How did you have that kind of cash?" "I worked and saved," Nia said, drying her hands with a towel. "Plus, my parents helped me out a little." "And where was Miles living then?" "He was renting an apartment." Tamara pondered that for a moment, then nodded. "I see. So, you invited him to move in with you." "We got married." Nia turned to her mother-in-law. "Naturally, we started living together." "Well, of course." Tamara smiled, but the smile felt cold and unpleasant. Since then, her mother-in-law had started scrutinizing the apartment, examining the furniture and appliances, asking how much everything cost. Nia answered evasively or not at all. The night before, while Nia was working on her laptop, Tamara looked into the office. She stood in the doorway for a long time, looking at the shelves, the desk, the cabinets. Nia felt her stare on the back of her head, but didn't turn around. Finally, Tamara left, and this morning, Nia caught her examining her private documents. This was crossing the line. At work, Nia, as always, dove into her tasks. She was a marketing executive for a large tech company responsible for product promotion. The workload was heavy, constant calls, presentations, and reports. At lunchtime, her colleague Rachel Chin came into her office. "Nia, want to grab some coffee, or are you barricaded in again? Let's go." Nia stood up and grabbed her mug. They went down to the staff lounge, poured coffee, and sat at a small table by the window. "Why the long face?" Rachel took a sip of her coffee. "Problems. My mother-in-law is visiting." Nia sighed. "For how long?" She said 10 days. "It's already been more than a week. And how's the tolerance level?" Nia paused, then said, "She's going through my stuff." "What do you mean?" Rachel frowned. "I caught her in my office this morning. She was looking at my documents, my financial papers." "No way," Rachel whistled. "Why would she do that?" "I don't know," Nia shrugged. "But I don't like it." "Did you tell Miles?" "He'll defend her. He always defends her." Rachel nodded knowingly. "I know those mama's boys. My husband used to be the same way. Thank goodness he's my ex." "You divorced because of your mother-in-law?" Nia looked at her friend. "Not just her," Rachel shrugged. "But she was the last straw. She came to stay for 3 days and stayed for 2 months. She criticized everything, meddled in everything, lectured me about life, and my husband just nodded and agreed with her. I told him, 'Your mother doesn't respect me.' And he said, 'You're exaggerating. She's just concerned.' Eventually, I realized I couldn't live that way." "And how did you decide to do it?" Nia asked the question that had been bothering her all day. What was there to decide? Rachel chuckled. "When it's impossible to take it anymore, the decision makes itself. I just woke up one day and realized that's it. I'm done. I packed my bags, moved in with a friend, and filed for divorce." He was surprised, of course. He thought I'd tolerate it forever. Then, well, it took a year to get used to being alone. But now, no one is meddling in my life, criticizing me or lecturing me. Freedom, Nia. That's worth a fortune. Nia silently finished her coffee. "What are you thinking about?" Rachel looked at her intently. "Nothing." Just Nia paused. "Just tired." "I get it." Rachel nodded. "Listen, if it gets too much, call me. We'll talk and you can take your mind off things." "Thanks." They returned to their desks. Nia sat down at her computer but couldn't focus. Her thoughts swirled around her conversation with Rachel. When it's impossible to take it anymore, the decision makes itself. Did that mean it was time for her to make a decision? She opened a new browser tab and searched for how to know when to get a divorce. She read a few articles. They all said the same thing. Lack of respect, a partner's unwillingness to defend you, prioritizing parents over a spouse. Nia closed the tab and returned to work, but the thought stuck in her head. What if this is really the end? What if I don't want to tolerate it anymore? Toward the end of the day, an email arrived from a client. The project Nia had been working on for 2 months had been approved. Bonus, increased company ratings. Thanks from the management. Nia read the email and smiled. At least one good thing happened today. She wrote a reply, thanked them for their trust, and promised to continue working with the same enthusiasm. Mr. Harrison, her boss, stopped by her office later in the evening. "Nia, congratulations." He smiled. "Excellent work." "Thank you." Nia nodded. "You know, I've been observing you for a while," her boss said, sitting on the edge of her desk. "You're one of our best employees. Responsible, driven, creative. I'm thinking of offering you the position of marketing department head. What do you say?" Nia looked up in surprise. "Seriously?" "Absolutely. The current head is leaving next month." I want you to take his place. Your salary will increase by 40%. New opportunities will open up. Think about it. I accept. Nia didn't hesitate. Thank you for your confidence. Excellent. Mr. Harrison stood up. Then we'll start the handover process in 2 weeks. Well done, Nia. Keep up the great work. He left. Nia remained sitting, staring at the blank computer screen. A promotion, a raise, new prospects. Everything she had dreamed of for the past 2 years was coming true. And at home, her mother-in-law was rummaging through her things, and her husband couldn't defend her. Nia closed her laptop, gathered her belongings, and left the office. On the way home, she thought about how strange life was. Everything was great at work, but her personal life was a complete failure. Or maybe not a failure. Maybe this was a sign. Maybe it was time to change something. She stopped at a grocery store and bought groceries. Bread, milk, vegetables, and chicken. Standing in the checkout line, she suddenly thought, what if I just don't go home? What if I check into a hotel and spend the night in peace without my mother-in-law and her commentary? But no, that would be cowardly. She wasn't the type to run away from problems. Nia paid and left the store. She took the train to her stop, walked up to the street, and headed through the evening city, looking at store windows, passers-by, and cars. People were rushing about their business. Everyone had their own life, their own problems, their own joys. Nia was one of millions, and for some reason that was comforting. She reached her condo building, stopped at the entrance, and looked up at the windows of her apartment on the 5th floor. A light was on. Her mother-in-law was waiting there. Her life was up there, a life she was increasingly unhappy with. Nia took a deep breath, exhaled, then opened the lobby door and went inside. The apartment smelled of fried onions and something else. Tamara was cooking dinner. Nia took off her shoes and hung up her jacket. Ah, you're here. Her mother-in-law peered out from the kitchen. Come, let's eat dinner. I made chicken gumbo and cornbread. Thanks. In a minute. Nia went to the bedroom, changed into comfortable clothes, and washed her face. She looked at herself in the mirror, a tired face, shadows under her eyes. When was the last time she got a full night's sleep? A week ago, too. She returned to the kitchen and sat down at the table. Tamara was scooping gumbo into bowls and setting down cornbread, salad, and bread. Where's Miles? Nia asked. He's running late, her mother-in-law said, sitting across from her. He called and said he'd be back by 8. They ate in silence. Nia ate slowly without much appetite. Tamara chattered about her neighbors and Gary, a friend who was sick, and grocery prices. Nia nodded and agreed, but she wasn't listening. After dinner, Tamara started washing the dishes. Nia offered to help, but her mother-in-law waved her off. Go rest. You've been working all day. Nia didn't argue. She went into the living room, lay down on the sofa, and turned on the TV. She watched a show, but didn't follow the plot. Her thoughts were elsewhere. Miles returned around 8, just as he promised. He said hello, kissed his mother, nodded to Nia, and went to the bathroom, then to the kitchen. Nia heard him reheating his dinner and his mother telling him something. Then Miles came into the living room and flopped down next to her on the sofa. How was your day? He asked. Fine, Nia replied without taking her eyes off the screen. I got promoted. Really? Miles looked surprised. Congratulations. That's awesome. Yeah, it is. Nia nodded. We should celebrate. Miles put an arm around her shoulders. Let's go out to a nice restaurant this weekend. We'll see. Nia pulled free of his embrace. I have to get up early tomorrow. She stood up, turned off the TV, and went to the bedroom. Miles remained on the sofa, looking after her in surprise. Nia lay down in bed, pulled the blanket up, and closed her eyes. But sleep wouldn't come. Thoughts spun in her head. The promotion, her mother-in-law, Miles, Rachel's divorce, her own future. What did she want? What was she waiting for in life? Could she really continue like this? Tolerating her mother-in-law, living with a husband who couldn't defend her, pretending everything was fine? Nia opened her eyes and stared into the darkness. No, she didn't want this. She wanted something else. Freedom, respect, and peace. If she had to change things for that to happen, she would change them. The decision formed suddenly and clearly, as if it had always been inside her, just waiting for the moment to emerge. Nia wouldn't tolerate it anymore. Whatever happened tomorrow, the day after, or next week, she would act. She would defend herself, her boundaries, and her life. She smiled into the darkness and fell asleep. The next morning, Nia woke up with a clear head and a firm intention. She got up, showered, and dressed. In the kitchen, Tamara was already fussing at the stove. Good morning, Nia. Her mother-in-law smiled. Sit down. I made oatmeal. No, thank you. Nia poured coffee. You never eat anything. Tamara shook her head. That's why you're so thin. Listen, Nia, where do you keep your bank card? Why do you need to know? Oh, just curious. Tamara averted her gaze. I always carry mine in my wallet, but some people leave them at home. Mine is in my purse. Nia finished her coffee. And where do you keep your purse? Nia turned and looked at her mother-in-law intently. Why do you need to know where my card is? It's nothing. Tamara waved her hand dismissively. Just small talk. Nia picked up her purse and keys. She decided to deliberately leave her purse out in the open this evening. The card would be in her wallet in its usual place. She wanted to see what her mother-in-law was planning. Bye, she said, and left the condo. On the way to work, Nia kept thinking about her mother-in-law's question. Why would she want to know where the card was? It was too suspicious, rummaging through documents, now asking about money. It was all forming a definite pattern. Nia arrived at work, greeted her colleagues, and sat down at her computer. She tried to focus on the project, but she couldn't. She took out her phone, opened her banking app, went to her account, and checked the balance. There was $38,500 in the account, last month's salary, plus a bonus. Nia had been saving for a trip to the Caribbean in the spring. She thought about it. Her mother-in-law had been rummaging through documents and asking about her card. This was highly suspicious. Nia opened the transfer section and moved $35,000 to a savings account that Miles didn't know about. She had opened that account before they were married, just in case. She left $3,500 on the main card. That was enough for current expenses. Then she opened the card settings and turned on notifications for every transaction. If someone tried to use the card, she would know instantly. Nia worked all day, but one thought kept turning in her head. Would her mother-in-law actually take the card, or was she just checking how much money was there? She checked her phone every half hour. No notifications, nothing. By the end of the day, Nia finished all her tasks and gathered her things. On the way home, she stopped at a drugstore and bought a small bottle of anxiety medication, just in case. The condo was quiet. Tamara was sitting in the living room, watching TV. Miles hadn't returned yet. Nia went to the bedroom, changed, and checked on her purse. It was in the hallway as planned. The wallet and card were in their place, easily accessible. Nia lay down on the bed, opened a book, and read. But she didn't focus on the text. She was just waiting. Waiting for what? She didn't know. But she felt something was about to happen. Soon, Miles returned around 8 o'clock in the evening, as he promised. He greeted his mother, kissed her, and then came into the bedroom. Hey, he sat next to her on the bed. How was your day? Fine, Nia said without looking up from her book. You seem tense. Miles touched her shoulder. Did something happen? No, just tired. Maybe we should go away this weekend. You could relax. We'll see. Nia closed her book. I have to get up early tomorrow. Miles shrugged and went to shower. Nia lay there staring at the ceiling, thinking about what would happen next. How would events unfold? What would she do if her suspicions were confirmed? She wasn't the type to tolerate things. She would act. Miles finished his shower, lay down on the bed, and picked up his phone. Nia lay next to him, staring at the ceiling. Miles, we need to talk, she said. About what? He didn't look up from the screen. About your mother, what happened? She's going through my stuff. Miles finally looked up. What makes you say that? I caught her in the office 2 days ago. She was reading my documents. Maybe she just walked in by accident. Miles. She was holding the folder from the locked drawer. So what? He shrugged. Maybe she thought it was something else. And this morning, she asked me where I keep my bank card. Nia turned to her husband. Does that not seem strange to you? Nia, stop being paranoid. Miles put down his phone. Mom was just making conversation. Out of curiosity. Out of curiosity. Nia repeated. Got it. What are you trying to say? Nothing. Nia turned away toward the wall. Good night. Miles muttered something and focused on his phone again. Nia lay there staring at the wall and realized that talking to him was useless. He would always side with his mother. Always. The next morning, Nia woke up with a heavy premonition. Something was going to happen today. She felt it with her whole body. Miles left for work at 7 a.m. As usual, Nia got up and showered. In the kitchen, Tamara was cooking oatmeal. Good morning, her mother-in-law smiled. Sit down. Let's have breakfast. No, thank you. Nia poured herself coffee. You really don't eat anything. Tamara shook her head. That's why you're so thin. Nia finished her coffee, picked up her purse, and deliberately left it in the hallway in plain sight. The card was in her wallet in its usual spot. Bye, she said to her mother-in-law and left the condo. On the way to work, Nia kept thinking about whether she was doing the right thing. Maybe she was being paranoid. Maybe her mother-in-law was just curious and not planning anything bad. But her gut told her otherwise. Too many oddities. Documents, questions, inquiries about the card. It all pointed to a specific scenario. Nia arrived at work, greeted her colleagues, and sat down at her computer. She tried to focus on the project, but couldn't. She checked her phone every half hour waiting for a notification. At 11 a.m., her phone vibrated. A bank notification. Attempted card payment for $3,150. Transaction declined due to insufficient funds. Location: the Diamond Galleria on the Magnificent Mile. Nia froze, staring at the screen. So, her mother-in-law had indeed taken the card, tried to buy something expensive, but didn't have enough money. Nia leaned back in her chair and closed her eyes. Okay, stay calm. She was ready for this. She knew this would happen. Nia opened the banking app and blocked the card, then called Rachel. Rachel, you were right. What happened? My mother-in-law stole my card and tried to pay for something at a jewelry store for over $3,000. The transaction didn't go through because I'd moved the money. That wretch. Rachel cursed. Nia, you have to act immediately. I know, Nia said calmly, though she was boiling inside. I know exactly what to do. She hung up and sat, staring at the computer screen, thinking about what would happen next. Her mother-in-law was probably furious right now. She found out there wasn't enough money, that the transaction was declined. What would she do? Call Miles? The phone rang, an unfamiliar number. Nia answered, Hello? A woman's voice screamed into the receiver. You trash. I stole your card and there's no money on it. Her mother-in-law shrieked, gasping for breath. You fool. You made a complete spectacle of me in front of the whole store. Do you hear me? The whole store. Nia remained silent, listening to the hysteria. Inside, everything went cold at those words. I stole your card. She admitted it herself. I stood there for 2 hours. Tamara continued screaming, picking things out, trying them on, and then at the register. Insufficient funds. The saleswoman looked at me like I was a beggar. Security came over asking if the card was mine. I told them my daughter-in-law gave it to me, but they didn't believe me. You did this on purpose. You hid the money on purpose. It's my card, Nia said quietly. My money? You had no right to take it. No right. Tamara wailed even louder. I'm your husband's mother. Everything you two have is mine. I raised him. I put him through school. He owes me. And you owe me too. I don't owe you anything. Nia spoke calmly, though her hands were shaking. You stole my card. That's a crime. A crime? Tamara cackled hysterically. I'll show you a crime right now. I'm coming home and I'll show you what's what. You think you're so smart hiding the money and everything? I'll show you. I wouldn't advise coming home. Nia, squeeze the phone. This is my condo. You don't live here. I most certainly do live there. Her mother-in-law screamed without stopping. And I'll keep living there. That's my son's home. You're just temporary. I'm coming over now and throwing all your clothes out on the street. Let him know not to steal from his mother's husband's wife. You're the thief. Nia didn't raise her voice. And I blocked the card. Contact the bank if you want. Go to hell. Tamara roared and slammed the phone down. Nia lowered the phone and looked at the screen. Her hands were trembling. Her mother-in-law had confessed to the theft herself over the phone and was now driving back to her condo. Nia took a deep breath, let it out, stood up, walked to the window, and looked out at the city below. She had to think fast. Her mother-in-law was coming home, threatening to throw out her things, and was likely to be aggressive. Nia wasn't afraid of a confrontation, but she needed to be prepared. She returned to her desk, opened the contacts on her phone, found the number for the local police precinct, and called. Hello, this is Nia Sterling. I'd like to report a bank card theft and a possible threat of physical assault. Where are you located? The dispatcher asked. I'm at work right now, but the person who committed the theft is at my condo at 12 Builder Street, apartment 43, and is threatening me over the phone. Describe the situation in detail. Nia briefly explained her mother-in-law had been staying with her for a week, stole her bank card, and tried to pay for something. The transaction failed, and she called to threaten her. Do you have proof of the theft? Yes. A bank notification about the attempted payment, the blocked card, and a recording of the phone conversation. You have a recording? The dispatcher corrected. I will. Nia looked at her phone. If she calls again or shows up, I'll record it. All right. We'll send a patrol car to the address you provided. When do you plan to be home? I'm leaving right now. Nia hung up, gathered her things, and told her colleagues she had to leave urgently due to a family emergency. She left the office and called Rachel on the way. Rachel, she called, screaming that she stole the card and was humiliated because of me. Now she's coming home and threatening to throw out my things. Oh my God! Rachel gasped. Nia, call the police. I already did. They'll be at the condo. Good girl, hang in there. Call me if anything happens. Nia took the train, looking out the tunnel window. Thoughts flashed quickly. Her mother-in-law was coming home. The police were coming too. What would happen when they met? Nia got off at her station and quickly walked home. She took the elevator to the 5th floor, took out her keys and opened the door. The condo was quiet. Too quiet. Nia stepped inside, closed the door, walked down the hall and checked the living room. Empty. The kitchen, no one at the bedroom, empty too. Tamara Hawthorne was not home. That meant she either hadn't returned from the store yet or had already gone somewhere else. Nia went to her room, opened the closet, took out a large suitcase, put it on the bed, and started packing just in case. Documents, money, her laptop, and clothes for a few days. If her mother-in-law showed up and caused a scene, Nia would be ready to leave to Rachel's, a hotel anywhere. The main thing was not to stay here if the situation got out of hand. The phone rang. Miles. Nia looked at the screen and didn't answer. Now was not the time to talk to him. Most likely his mother had already called him, complained, and twisted the story. The phone rang again. Nia silenced the call and sent a text. We'll talk later. I'm busy right now. The reply came instantly. What is going on? Mom called me sobbing. Says you insulted her. Nia smirked. Of course. Her mother-in-law had already started her game. Nia wrote, Your mother stole my bank card and tried to buy a piece of jewelry for $3,150. The transaction failed. I called the police. Come home if you want to sort this out. She sent it, put the phone on the bed, and continued packing. A minute later, the phone exploded with a call. Miles. Nia answered. Are you out of your mind? He yelled into the phone. The police on my mother. Your mother stole my card. Nia spoke calmly. That's a crime. I'm defending my rights. What crime? Miles screamed relentlessly. She's my mother. We're family. We have separate finances. Your mother had no right to take my card. Who do you think you are? Miles choked with anger. You kick out my mother, you call the police. Who are you anyway? The owner of this condo. Nia looked at the suitcase of packed clothes. And I have the right to decide who stays here. This is my mother's home, Miles cried. She is staying here temporarily as a guest, but she violated the rules. What rules? Miles laughed hysterically. You're sick. You are definitely sick. I'll be home in an hour, Nia said without raising her voice. The police should already be there. If you want to sort this out, come on over. She hung up, checked the time. 1:30 in the afternoon. Her mother-in-law could return at any moment. Nia finished packing, zipped up the suitcase, and put it in the hallway just in case. Then she returned to the room, sat on the bed, took out her phone, opened the voice recorder, and started recording. If her mother-in-law came and started a scene, Nia would have a recording. She was not the type to tolerate things. She would defend herself by any means necessary. About 20 minutes later, there was a loud knock on the door. Nia stood up, approached the door, and looked through the peephole. 2 police officers, a man and a woman. Nia opened the door. Did you call us? The man asked. Yes, I did. Please come in. The officers entered and looked around. Are you alone? The man asked. Yes, the person who committed the theft hasn't returned yet. Please tell us in detail what happened. Nia briefly outlined the situation, showed the bank notification about the attempted payment, told them about the phone call, and how her mother-in-law had confessed to the theft and made threats. Do you have a recording of the conversation? The female officer asked. No, but if she calls again or comes here, I will record it. All right, we'll wait. If she shows up, we'll take a statement. Nia nodded, offered the officers some coffee, but they declined. They sat in the living room and waited. 10 minutes passed, 15, 20. Finally, the door was slammed hard with a kick. Then again and again. Nia jumped up. The officer stood up too, exchanging glances. Open up. A voice screamed from outside the door. I know you're in there. Open up right now. It was Tamara Hawthorne. Nia walked to the door and looked through the peephole. Her mother-in-law was standing in the hall, red-faced and disheveled, pounding on the door with her fists. You witch, she screamed. Are you going to open it, or do I have to kick the door down? Nia turned to the officers, nodded, turned on the voice recorder on her phone, put it in her pocket, and then opened the door. Tamara burst into the condo like a hurricane. That's it. I'm going to break your legs right now. She raised her hand to strike and froze. 2 police officers were standing in the hallway. They were looking at her calmly but intently. The mother-in-law slowly lowered her hand. Her face went pale. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. Hello, the male officer said. Are you Tamara Hawthorne? I am. Her mother-in-law backed toward the door. Don't move. The female officer stepped forward. We need to ask you a few questions. What questions? Tamara looked at Nia. It was her. She called you. She's lying about me. Did you take Nia Sterling's bank card without her permission? The officer asked. Tamara went silent. Her eyes darted back and forth. I were family. Everything in a family is shared. Answer the question. Did you take the card? Well, yes, I did. Tamara flared up. So what? She's my son's wife. I have the right. No, Nia said softly. You don't. Shut up. Her mother-in-law took a step toward her, but the officer stepped between them. Calm down. Did you try to use the stolen card to pay for a purchase? Not stolen, Tamara shrieked. I borrowed it from my daughter-in-law. We're family. You have separate finances. The female officer interjected. That means the card belongs only to Nia Sterling. You had no right to take it. Yes, I did. Her mother-in-law stomped her foot. My son owes me. She owes me. Did you threaten Nia Sterling over the phone? The officer asked. What? Tamara backed away. What threats? You said you were going to come over and show her what's what, that you would throw her things out. I was upset. You threatened physical assault. I'm going to break your legs right now. Were those your words? Tamara's face turned even paler. I didn't mean it like that. We have witnesses. The officer nodded toward Nia and a recording. Nia took her phone out of her pocket and showed the voice recorder was on. It's all recorded. Tamara looked at her in horror, then at the police, then back at Nia. You set me up, she whispered. You intentionally set this whole thing up. I protected my rights, Nia said calmly. You stole my card. That was your choice. Tamara lunged toward her, but the officer grabbed her arm. Calm down immediately. Let me go. Her mother-in-law struggled, trying to pull away. I'll kill her. Do you hear me? I'll kill this jerk. You are threatening murder. The female officer took out handcuffs. You'll have to come down to the precinct with us. What? Tamara stopped. To the precinct? Theft? Threat of physical assault. Attempted battery. That's 3 counts of criminal offense. But I didn't mean to. Her mother-in-law started crying. I just wanted a gold bracelet. I've dreamed of one my whole life. That's no excuse. The officer turned her to the wall. Hands behind your back. No. Tamara screamed. Miles, son, help me. The female officer snapped the handcuffs onto her wrists. You have the right to 1 phone call. Miles, her mother-in-law, sobbed loudly. Call my son. Tell him his mother was arrested. You are not arrested. The officer corrected. You are being detained for questioning. Nia stood in the hallway watching. Inside there was a strange calm. She had done what she had to do. She had defended herself, her boundaries, and her life. Her mother-in-law continued to scream, demanding to call Miles. She swore it was all a misunderstanding. The officers led her out of the condo. Tamara looked back at Nia. You'll regret this, she hissed. Miles will leave you. You'll be all alone. Better alone than with a thief and her son, Nia said quietly. Her mother-in-law opened her mouth to reply, but the officer pulled her toward the elevator. Let's go. They were gone. The door closed. Silence fell over the condo. Nia leaned against the wall, closed her eyes, took a deep breath and let it out. It was over. Her mother-in-law was detained. Nia had the proof, the recording, the witnesses, the bank notification. She went into the living room, sat on the sofa, pulled out her phone and called Rachel. Rachel, it's done. They took her to the precinct. What? Rachel gasped. Tell me everything. Nia briefly described what happened. The phone call, the threats, the police arriving, the detention. Unbelievable, Rachel whistled. Nia, you are a hero. A real hero. I just protected myself. Nia smiled tiredly. No, you did more than just protect yourself. Rachel shook her head. You showed that you can't be taken advantage of, that you have boundaries and you'll stand up for them. Thanks. But this isn't the end. Miles is probably on his way here right now. And what are you going to tell him? The truth. If he doesn't understand, then our marriage is over. Hang in there. Call me if anything happens. Nia hung up, sat for a little while, staring into space, then stood up, went to the kitchen, and poured herself a glass of water. About 20 minutes later, the doorbell rang sharply, insistently. Miles. Nia opened the door. Her husband was standing on the threshold, red-faced and disheveled. Where is my mother? He screamed the moment he saw her. She's at the police precinct. Nia stepped aside, letting him in. Miles burst into the condo. Are you insane? You had my mother arrested. I didn't have her arrested. The police detained her after she attempted to assault me. Assault. Miles laughed hysterically. That's my mother. She wouldn't hurt a fly. She burst into the apartment screaming, I'm going to break your legs right now, Nia said calmly, and she raised her hand to hit me. The police saw everything. Miles froze. The police were here. Yes. I called them after your mother called and started making threats. She wasn't threatening anyone. Miles stepped toward her. She was just upset. She said she stole my card and was humiliated because of me. Nia looked him in the eye. She confessed herself over the phone. I have the recording. Miles turned pale. A recording? Yes. And witnesses. 2 police officers who saw her attempt to hit me. Miles sank onto the sofa, clutching his head. I don't believe it. This is a nightmare. This is reality. Nia sat in the armchair opposite him. Your mother stole my card, tried to buy a piece of jewelry for $3,150, and when the transaction failed, she called me and started insulting me. Then she came here and tried to assault me. That's all. But she's my mother. Miles looked up. She didn't mean to hurt you. She called me a fool, a witch and trash. Nia listed calmly. She threatened to break my legs and tried to hit me. That doesn't sound like didn't mean to hurt me. Miles remained silent, staring at the floor. So what now? He finally asked. Now, your mother will give a statement at the precinct. She may face charges for theft and threats. That's her choice. And you couldn't have just talked to her. Miles flared up. Explained. I tried. Nia shook her head. Yesterday, when I discovered the card was missing, she started screaming that she had the right, that we're family, and today she stole the card and tried to use it. And you immediately called the police. Not immediately. First, I blocked the card. Then, she called and started threatening me. That's when I called the police. Miles stood up and paced the room. I can't believe you did this to my mother. I defended myself. Nia stood up too. Your mother crossed the line many times. What line? Rummaging through my documents, asking about my money, stealing the card, insulting me, trying to assault me. That's enough. Miles stopped and looked at her. And you? You didn't even try to help her. You didn't give her the money when she asked. She didn't ask. Nia crossed her arms over her chest. She stole because she knew you would refuse. Does that justify theft? Miles was silent. Miles. Nia spoke quietly. I understand she's your mother, but she committed a crime. Several actually. And I'm not going to tolerate it. So, you're choosing between me and my mother, Miles said harshly. No, Nia shook her head. You are choosing between the truth and blind loyalty. Your mother stole. That's a fact. I am defending my rights. That is also a fact. You can choose whose side you stand on. Miles paced the room again, stopping by the window. You know what the detective told me? He said without turning around. He asked, Does your mother have a criminal record? I said, No, of course not. He said, Any problems with the law? I said, Never. He nodded and said, That's strange. Usually people who steal for the first time are at least embarrassed. But your mother acted as if it were normal. She demanded, screamed, and said she was entitled to someone else's money. Nia listened silently. He said that people like that need to be stopped. Miles continued, Otherwise, they'll think they can get away with anything and will keep doing it. He turned to Nia. I thought about it the whole ride, and I realized he's right. My mother has always acted this way. Miles spoke slowly, choosing his words carefully. When I was little, she would take money from my father's wallet without asking, or buy something for herself with his paycheck. My father complained. She would say, We're family. Everything is shared. He always gave in. He walked to the sofa and sat down. When I grew up and started working, she did the same thing to me. She would take money from my wallet or ask me to transfer money to her account and then spend it on something completely different. I complained. She would say, You owe me. I gave birth to you and raised you, and I always gave in because she's my mother. Nia sat in the armchair opposite him. When we got married, I thought she would calm down. Miles looked at his wife, that she would understand boundaries, but she started treating you the same way. First small things, taking food from the fridge without asking, turning on the TV in your office. Then she rummaged through your documents, and now she stole your card. He rubbed his face with his hands, and I always defended her. I always said it wasn't malicious, that she's just like that. But today, when the detective said that phrase, I understood. If I don't stop her now, she will never stop. Nia remained silent, giving him time to collect his thoughts. I don't want my mother to have a criminal record. Miles looked up, but I realize she deserves this. And if this is the only way to teach her to respect other people's boundaries, then so be it. Nia felt something inside her soften for the first time all evening. For the first time in 3 years, Miles was siding with her against his mother. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For hearing me. Miles nodded. I should have heard you sooner. I'm sorry. They sat in silence for a few minutes. Then Miles asked, what happens next? Next? Your mother will have to go through the whole procedure. Nia shrugged. Statements, court, a verdict. Most likely, she'll get a fine and probation. Maybe a suspended sentence. And us. Miles looked at her. What happens to us? Nia thought about it. I don't know, she admitted. It depends on you. On me? Yes. Are you ready to accept that we have separate finances and separate property? That I'm not obligated to help your mother? That I have boundaries that cannot be crossed? Miles paused. Yes, he finally said, I am ready. Even if your mother pressures you, tells you I'm a bad wife, even then. Miles stood up and approached her. I'm tired of defending her. I want to defend you. Nia looked up at him. Are you serious? Absolutely. She stood up and hugged him. Miles held her tight. I'm sorry I didn't hear you sooner, he whispered. I'm sorry I always took her side. It's okay. Nia closed her eyes. The important thing is that you're here now. They stood there for several minutes. Then Miles pulled back. I need to call my mother and tell her I'm on your side. Are you sure? Yes. He took out his phone, dialed the number, and turned on the speakerphone. Son, Tamara wailed into the receiver. Where are you? Are you coming to get me? No, Mom. Miles spoke firmly. I'm not coming to get you. A pause. What do you mean you're not coming to get me? It means you'll stay there until tomorrow. Then there will be a court case, and you'll take responsibility for what you did. What did I do? Tamara screamed. I just wanted a bracelet. That's all. You stole someone else's card. Miles didn't raise his voice. That's a crime. Someone else's. That's your wife's card, my daughter-in-law. We're family. We have separate finances. That's Nia's money. You had no right to touch it. Separate finances. Her mother-in-law cackled hysterically. She doesn't even see you as a person. She treats you like hired help. She treats me like a husband. Miles looked at Nia with respect and trust, and you crossed a line. What line? I'm your mother. You stole from my wife, insulted her, and tried to assault her. That's not a mother's behavior. That's a criminal's behavior. Tamara was silent, then started to cry. You sided with her against me. I sided with the truth, Miles said harshly. And if you don't understand that you committed a crime, then you really need a lesson. A lesson, his mother howled. You want me to have a criminal record? I want you to understand that you cannot steal from or threaten people. People? That's your wife? Exactly. My wife, the person I love, and you attacked her. Tamara sobbed into the phone. I hate you. You're a traitor. You're a bad son. Maybe. Miles shrugged. But I'm a good husband, and that's more important. He hung up. Nia looked at him in surprise. You really did that? Yes, Miles nodded. And you know what? I feel better. He hugged her again. My whole life I felt guilty towards her, like I wasn't helping enough, wasn't caring enough, and today I realized she's been using me all my life. Nia held him close. What will happen to her now? I don't know, Miles sighed. Most likely a fine, maybe a suspended sentence. But those are her problems, not ours. And if she calls, tries to pressure you, I won't answer, or I'll answer and repeat what I just said. Nia smiled. You've changed. No. Miles shook his head. I just finally opened my eyes. The next day, Nia went to work as usual and told Rachel what had happened. Her friend listened with her mouth open. Unbelievable, she exclaimed. Nia, you are a badass. I just protected myself. Nia shrugged. No, you did more than just protect yourself. Rachel shook her head. You showed that you cannot be taken advantage of, that you have boundaries, and you will defend them. Thank you. And Miles really sided with you? Yes. He called his mother yesterday and told her she committed a crime and that he's on my side. Wow. Rachel whistled. Maybe he's not such a mama's boy after all. Maybe. Nia smiled. Time will tell. A week later, the court case took place. Tamara Hawthorne was found guilty of theft and threats. She was given a fine of $1,000 and 6 months of probation. Her criminal record was suspended. Her mother-in-law stood in the courtroom, red with anger and humiliation. When the judge read the verdict, she looked at Nia with hatred. You will regret this, she hissed. You'll definitely regret this. Nia didn't reply. She simply turned around and walked out of the courtroom. Miles was waiting for her in the hallway. Well, he asked a fine and probation. Nia shrugged. Suspended sentence. She deserved it. Miles took her hand. Let's get out of here. They left the courthouse. It was a sunny day outside. Nia tilted her face to the sky and closed her eyes. It's over, she said quietly. Yes. Miles put his arm around her shoulders. It's over. That evening, they were sitting at home drinking coffee. Miles suddenly asked, Were you serious about leaving? What? Nia looked up. Yesterday, when I got back from the precinct, you had a packed suitcase. You were going to leave if I sided with my mother. Nia nodded. Yes, I was. Where would you have gone? To Rachel's or a hotel. It doesn't matter. The main thing was not to stay where I wasn't respected. Miles was silent for a moment. I was scared to lose you, he confessed. When the detective said Mom committed a crime, I realized that if I sided with her, you would leave and that would be the end. Yes. Nia nodded. It would have been. That's why I chose you. Nia looked at him intently. Did you choose me out of fear of losing me, or because you genuinely understood? Miles thought about it. First, out of fear, he admitted honestly. But then, when I talked to my mother on the phone, I realized it was the right thing to do. My whole life, I let her do whatever she wanted, and it's time to stop. Nia smiled. I'm glad you realized that. Yes. Miles nodded. Better late than never. They finished their coffee in silence. Then Miles asked, What about us now? What about us? Will you forgive me for always defending my mother? Nia paused. I will, she said, but with a condition. What is it? If she ever tries to interfere in our lives again, you stop her. Not me. You. I promise. Miles took her hand. I will never take her side against you again. Good. Nia squeezed his fingers. Then it's a deal. A year passed. Nia was promoted to department head. Miles got a raise at his job. They bought a car together, registering it in both their names. Tamara Hawthorne returned to Gary, Indiana, to complete her probation. She called Miles once a month, crying and complaining about her life. He listened, but didn't give in. He told her she was responsible for her own problems. Nia never went to see her. One evening, Miles came home with a bouquet of flowers. What's this? Nia looked at him in surprise. Our anniversary. Miles smiled. 1 year from the day you called the police on my mother. Nia laughed. A strange anniversary, but an important one. Miles handed her the flowers. That day, I realized you weren't the type to tolerate things, that you defend yourself, and I fell in love with you all over again. Nia took the bouquet and smelled the flowers. Thank you. No, thank you. Miles hugged her for not leaving, for giving me a chance to change. Nia pressed herself against him. You earned it. They stood there hugging in the hallway, and Nia thought about how strangely life worked. Sometimes you have to go through hell to find happiness. You have to be willing to lose everything to gain what truly matters. She was not the type to tolerate things. She was the type to act, and that saved her, and it saved them both. And Tamara Hawthorne, well, she got what she deserved. And that was justice. Nia smiled and closed her eyes, enjoying the moment. She had everything she wanted. A successful career, a loving husband, respect and freedom. And no one would ever cross her boundaries again, because she would never allow it. I'm really glad you're here and that I could share my story with you. If you liked it, show me by liking the video and subscribing to my channel. Let's see how many of us there are. Write in the comments which city you're watching from and what time it is. I'm so curious to know where all you wonderful people are tuning in from. If you want to support me a little extra, you can also send a small donation. I share new life stories for you every single day. And now 2 of my most popular stories will pop up on the screen, so you can choose what to watch.